Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to say thank you for all the support that we've been getting over the last few months. These podcasts are super fun for me and Preston to do, and we're pumped that everyone's liking it. It's get such a positive feedback. Please check out on Spotify, give us a download, and check out our YouTube channel if you want to see the videos of these podcasts. Up next on the podcast is Chad Koeplinger. Chad is the talented owner of Adventure Tattoos here in Nashville and is an avid foodie. He's always supporting the restaurant industry and has traveled the world back and forth. I was super excited to sit down with him and hear his story firsthand. Chad Koeplinger, thanks for being on the podcast. Yeah. I feel like we have so much to talk about because you're an avid foodie, which I love. You're in Nashville, which is amazing. But let's go back to all the way back to Michigan.
Okay.
How does one get started in tattooing? So this might be a two-part question because
sure.
How did you get started, first of all? Like, where did that come from? Did you like drawing first, or where did the arts come from? What was your family influence on it, if there was any?
Okay. My family, I was the first person in my entire family, as far as I know, to ever have a tattoo. So it was not part of the family situation. My earliest memory of anything tattoo related, I was 6, I believe. I was at a McDonald's with my dad, and there was a guy in line that in my memory had a bodysuit of tattoos.
No kidding.
And he just looked fucking cool.
Yeah.
You know, and then like Escape from New York, Snake Plissken.
You
know what I mean? Like all that kind of shit. And I was like, man, these people look so cool. You know, I want that. And my parents were always like, those are needles. It's going to hurt. And like, whatever. I don't know. I never cared. But, you know, like through skateboarding and like punk rock music and stuff, art was always like a huge thing, right? And then there was like an overlap with tattooing and skateboarding, and like an old issue of Thrasher, they had this whole tattoo situation. Uh-huh. And then that also coincided with this dude that I kind of knew from like walking to school, this like older dude that lived down the street. I'd see him and he'd always be nice or whatever, but he was a skateboard dude.
Yeah.
About 9 years older than me, and he had a couple tattoos.
Yeah.
And then like through skateboarding, we talked, and he started tattooing, and then I'd get tattoos from him when I was like a kid, hiding them from my parents and stuff.
No kidding.
Yeah, totally.
Like a kid, like what age,
yeah, like
man?
15.
No kidding,
like
man.
Early 15
yeah.
too, you know? And, you know,
So in your house was tattoos like a taboo thing?
Oh yeah,
because
totally.
I figure we're the same age. You grew up in like the 80s, you know. And my dad was a cop.
Oh shit!
So like we couldn't even bring up the fact that, I mean, it was like,
oh, I bet
you're gonna get a job, you're gonna get health insurance, you're gonna buy a car with good gas mileage. Like it was like the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
And like tattoos was like a disgusting thing, even though I was like interested in it.
Yeah.
I think this the brainwashing until I got older.
Oh yeah, cop at that time, you probably associated with criminals and shit.
Drug. If you get a tattoo, you're a drug dealer, you're a criminal, you killed somebody. Like that. Yeah. Basically, that's what it was.
Totally, which is kind of cool.
And
right?
it was also it's needles and it hurts. And you know, my grandfather was in like one of World War II probably, and he had something on his arm. It was who knows what it was then. And I asked him about it. Oh, it hurts so much and it's pain and agony and you don't want to do this. And it was just that narrative of you know what you're brainwashed with.
I remember at one point like talking to my parents about tattoos, and I had already had one tattoo. Excuse me. And they didn't know it, and they were telling me how bad they hurt, and I just wanted to tell them so bad, but I knew they'd beat me up. You know what I mean? Right, so I was just like, it's all right. But so the guy who inevitably became my teacher, I just was so in love with the whole tattoo thing. And when he finally opened a shop, I found myself going there most days just to hang out, and I'd stop by and see if they needed something from the store, or just hang out and shoot the shit or whatever. But I always was, and I don't know if this is like a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest. I was always afraid to tell him that I wanted to do what he was doing. Because in my mind, it would be rude to be like, this thing that you've dedicated your life to, I want to do what you do.
Yeah, yeah.
People don't have a problem with that anymore for some reason. But in my mind, it just was like, well, what was I doing to make that seem like an okay thing to say to somebody? And fast forward a couple more years of being there all the time, one day him and I were talking about how I wanted to travel and see the world and stuff. And he was like, well, you know, guys like us, we don't have parents with money. We don't have educations. I quit school after 9th grade. I hated school. And he's like, the only way to do that is to either be a merchant mariner or a tattooer. And that I saw in that moment as my opportunity to tell him that I always wanted to be a tattooer. And he looked at me, he was like, really? He's like,
really?
He's like, well, I'll sell you some stuff for $100.
Why are you just telling me this now?
yeah. Because, well, also the other people he taught, he asked them, right? He asked them. They didn't ask him. So I thought, well, that's how it works, right? If he sees a potential in you, he would ask you. But he never asked me. So I thought, man, I must not have potential.
Because you just didn't know you were interested in it, right?
Yeah. But when he finally was like, oh, I'll sell you some stuff for $100, I was like, sick.
Yeah.
But then I was like, where am I going to get $100? And luckily, it was my 21st birthday was shortly after that, and this girl I was dating, I don't know where she got $100, but she bought me the stuff.
No kidding. That's
And
great.
then it kind of worked out. And he taught me in a very roundabout way. You know, he kind of let me learn a lot on my own. And you know, I was like a stupid kid where I thought I wasn't learning enough then and I needed to go somewhere else and this, that, and that, which I think happens a lot in both of our industries.
Why do you? So we talked about that earlier, which we'll get back into, but not to go on a side mission. But
Sure.
I think that's a very young person attitude of I'm not learning enough. Like, why can't? And I'm speaking from my own experiences. Like, why can't a person in their 20s see the bigger picture of I'm at this great place, or I don't know enough, but you're not learning enough. Like, I feel like I'm not learning.
Right.
Is it like stagnant of just doing the mundane every day and trying to perfect that they don't see the value in that?
It might be. I think to some degree, I think there's like this hunger that you have when you're young and this weird, you don't understand that there's a future.
Yeah.
And because you haven't experienced that yet, you know, and time still goes by relatively slowly when you're young and this and that. So what to me and you now might feel like no time might feel like an eternity to somebody half of our age.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is a real deal, right?
Right.
But I think that, you know, there's like that total uncertainty of what the future is going to be, but you're so young that you don't even know it's uncertain.
Correct.
You know, and I think that's like a huge part of it. You're just like, you don't know how to fucking regulate your speed, man. And you just want it all.
You just want it all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like
Yeah.
fucking lion, you know, like wanting to eat until you're like, you know, explode.
Yeah. Well, life for me goes by in 10-year clips now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, a couple of years ago, like I still think 2019 was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, same.
It's like,
same.
fuck, man.
Feels like yesterday.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, you know, on a side note that speaks to what you asked me, I've had that conversation with some people lately where I was like, you know, the thing is, and I don't want to be like the older dude that's bitching about young people, but the thing is like every young person always thinks that people older than them are dumb and that they're out of touch and everything.
Or they don't have it anymore.
Right.
You know?
But what they fail to realize is that every old person was once a young person that thought the same fucking thing. My grandparents thought fucking people that were 40 when they were fucking 20 were stupid.
Yeah.
And their grandparents, it's just the way it's always been. But what happens is you get older and you have a bunch of experience and you go, some of that naivety is fucking awesome, right? But some of it is just fucking things up.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, they're not just fucking things up for yourself. They're fucking things up for whole industries, the whole, you know, just societies, things like, and it's like, yeah, ideas are sweet, man. But like when you're young and you don't have any experience to really know like what the possibilities of the outcomes are going to be, maybe it's a good idea to not make such fucking serious decisions.
Yeah. Try telling a 20-year-old that though.
I know, totally.
Like, you know, being naive is, I think, what fucking pushed me to get to where I was. And I reached a certain point where, like, God, I was a fucking moron.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, there is some element of like you have to be kind of dumb to be an explorer.
Dumb and fearless almost. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Which is cool, you know? Like,
yeah.
I get it, you know?
Right.
Like
we used to jump off the garage, you know, when I was just for fun.
same.
If I did that now, I'd be like, I'd break every bone in my body.
Dude, we used to throw darts at each other. You know what I mean? But like, you know, fuck, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's kind of it's a real catch-22, honestly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you need to have people that don't care what is supposed to happen. right?
Correct. Yeah.
But there's this new push to make a new definition of what is supposed to happen that I never had. Like growing up, I never gave a shit other than specific individual people that I knew and cared about. I didn't care what anybody thought about me.
Right.
I didn't care what a stranger thought about me. Stranger said something crazy about me. The fuck do I care?
Right.
If it bothered me enough, punch him in the nose.
Yeah.
If not, like, who gives a shit? People now are crushed by something a stranger thinks.
Totally.
What a weird thing to me.
Yeah.
Like, why does that matter?
Well, I mean, for me, I think the household that we grew up in, I'm not ragging on my parents at all, but it was very much of, we had to sit in the front row of church. We had to this and, you know, what people said. And it was just kind of ingrained. And it didn't until I got in my 30s where I just started like unbrainwashing all of that. And like, I'm down my own road. I don't give a shit. But, you know, I could see and get sucked into that. But that's an amazing trait to have, you know. Still today, it's like.
Yeah.
But social media amplifies a lot of that also. And it's like if these young guys that don't have direction and they don't know what they want to do and they open up and they see something online, if something Andrew Tate said or whoever, and they're like, oh, this is what I should do. And they grasp onto these frivolous things. You know, I have to be a millionaire. Yeah, I think that's why there's so many scam artists in the world. The Theranos girl and the Fire Festival guys. There's this pressure to be an entrepreneur without doing the work. And it's like, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't want to go through all the steps that all of these amazing people went through and all these failures that they've had.
Yeah.
And it's like, they just want to like jump right to like the end result. You know?
Totally. Which perhaps controversially in my own mind, I am of two minds about. On one hand, I think that's fucked up, right? And then on the other hand, I'm like, buyer beware. If you're dumb enough to get scammed.
Yeah, right.
I don't even know that a scam's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, I wouldn't do it, right? But like, some of this shit's obvious as hell, man. Mm-hmm. And like, how is it not to people? It just shocks me.
It's almost a rite of passage. Well, I got scammed. And, oh, well, you got me this time. You're not going to get me next time. I just hope that you didn't lose your whole life savings and you can rebuild something. Yeah, you know,
exactly.
You know, it's not like you're in New York and you got scammed for $20 and 3-card Monty.
Yeah.
You know, these people are losing millions of dollars.
Yo, if you give all in on anything that you're not doing yourself, I personally think that's insane.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Like, all right, man. You know what I mean? Like, I put everything I had into Bitcoin. Like, okay, cool,
right.
Like, all right. I hope it works out in the long run. I don't know. You know, I wouldn't do it. Right. But you know, I still like to take risks, man.
Of course, but the risks that I'm taking now are like educated, smart. Yeah. What I think are risks. You know, so
totally.
So you get your first tattoo gun now. Did you have any art experience at all? Were you like an amazing drawer? Did you sculpt? Like, where was your connection to art when you got your first gun?
I was an okay artist.
Okay, great.
I drew. I loved drawing. At the very best, I was lower end of okay. Mm-hmm. I feel like, you know, you get, like anything, you get those few people in the beginning of you starting something new that tell you you're great, you're doing a great job, and you know you probably shouldn't listen to them, but you kind of do because you're like,
it feels good.
Well, yeah, and having some confidence always makes you better at what you're doing, right? Well, you know, the reality of it is that I don't think that I could draw something confidently and competently, like without just stumbling upon something good until I had been doing it for 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that was like my first 4 or 5 years of tattooing was, you know, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day in the tattoo shop at minimum, if not 14 hours a day. And it was half those times you weren't doing anything except sitting in there, waiting for something to happen, reading books, drawing, filling yourself with knowledge and hopes that you'd be able to handle things right.
Right.
Because you got to put in the work to fucking be anything. And my thought always was like, well, you know, the dude that I got into tattooing from was somebody I looked up to a lot, right? So my mind was partially I want to make that person proud of me. Even with the falling outs and different shit we had, it was always important to me that the person that gave me a start in this thing could look at whatever it is I've done and feel good about it.
Sure.
And then what I felt about my own stuff, right? You know? And so I just worked hard, man, the whole time. You know, and you get lazy sometimes, whatever. It is what it is. And you make stupid decisions sometimes. Yeah. But, you know, overall, looking back on it, I feel like, you know, I just had to work hard to be able to draw properly and to
Right,
learn how
right.
to do it. And a lot of it was repetition. It was like doing walk-in tattoos that I hated, right? Over and over and over again. And the whole time I'm doing half of these things, I'm like, this is bullshit. This is stupid. This is dumb.
I want to get
but then,
breathe written
all
on
of
my
a sudden-
wrist.
Right. But then all of a sudden, you can just draw whatever because you just did it over and over again.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole time you're thinking things like, yeah, I'm not learning shit here. This is fucking stupid. I'm just treading water in a fucking pool full of piss or whatever. But you know what? Like, I learned so much that way. Mm-hmm. And so that's where my art training came from. And just looking at stuff, man, like filling your head full of, you know, I'm sure like you guys probably look at cookbooks all the time. And it gives you, you're not necessarily taking this exact thing, but there's like bits and pieces of it that you put into your own shit.
Absolutely.
But if you're not looking at that shit and you're not immersing yourself in that shit like all the time, what are you doing? Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah. You know, and there's a place. You need to have people that are only just doing what they're told. Mm-hmm. That's life. Yeah. But like if you want to be something, you got to fill up your gas tank, right?
Yeah. So you what was your first tattoo then? Like, are we fast forwarding? You get your gun, what happens?
Well, the first one I did was like this kind of like weird juggalo kid. Like he wanted what he claimed to be a Cherokee sun on his back, but I'm pretty sure it was just something like he scribbled on a paper plate or something. Oh, fuck. And I tried to do it, man, and it was so hard. Yeah. It was so hard. It was like hours and hours for something that'd probably take 10 minutes now. You know? And it was just like the struggle, but it was like the coolest struggle ever. It was so hard. And then like the first probably 15 tattoos were just a total mess of, you know, in every way you could imagine a mess to be. Mm-hmm. And just kept plugging away at it.
Is there an apprenticeship that happens then, or
some people have those?
Okay.
Some people have those. Some people don't. I mean, I consider my guy my teacher, but his form of teaching was like the occasional snippet of information, and he would come in and watch what you're doing, and he'd look at it, and if you're doing real bad, he'd just go, huh. And if it was good, he'd look at it, just walk away.
Yeah. And no news is good news.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
And you could ask him stuff, and he'd tell you little things, but you know, I think he had this like kind of, you know, you're going to figure it out, you know what I mean? Or you're going to just quit.
Yeah. At what age did you figure it out? Like at what age was it always you were just dabbling, or when you first started, you're like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life?
No, what I want to do the rest of my life.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Great.
I mean, before that I had all kinds of stupid jobs, you know, like I was like 16 and I worked the night shift at a rent by the hour hotel in the worst neighborhood in town. You know what I mean? For $4 an hour cash. Yeah. I worked in a fucking powder coating factory. I cleaned floors at Kmart. I worked like real jobs, you know, like that were hard for very little pay. And so to me, like this whole thing was like, this is so sick.
Right.
And it was something that I had this like desire inside for a real long time. Mm-hmm. And once it started to become realized, it was just like, well, this is it, you know? And so, it took a long time before I feel like I actually, I'm probably close to 10 years of tattooing before I was really just like, I can do that, or whatever. I still feel like I have a beginner's mind. There's times where I'm like starting something and I'm like,
isn't that healthy though?
Yeah, definitely. Totally, man. I think once you get like super confident, you get stale as fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I'm assuming probably the same with you.
It is the same.
Yeah. You got to be like gassed up and like, you got to be a little bit nervous. And
I think like the slumps have happened so often in the last 28 years of me cooking that I know it's coming and I know how to manage it better. As before it was the slumps like, oh fuck. And it's been X amount. I can't create a new dish. I'm just doing this and I can't work my way out. Yeah. Because now I see it coming and I know the steps I need to do to identify it, realize it, and then I kind of pivot away from it and look at things that. It's really funny. It's like when I get into like a weird slump or you know like a little depression or something. I always look at like Japanese cooking because it's something that I don't know how to do. And it's just, it just reminds me of like being like an 18-year-old kid again and seeing like a hollandaise sauce made for the first time. Where it's like, fuck, like how did he cut that? And like watching a guy take a tuna and like cut it into blocks. And as many times as I cut tuna, I can never get it that right. So I just like focus on all of these things that I love eating sushi and I love the izakaya and omakases, but it's not something that's in my repertoire,
right?
Because it's foreign to me, and those flavors I can't really perfect. So I gravitate towards that to kind of like re-inspire me to be, to think about things, and then I go back to the slump that I'm in, and it's like I'm a new outlook of like, okay, let's just abandon this dish that we're working on, take these elements that are good, and let's create something else. And it's kind of I work my way out of it, If that makes any sense. I don't know.
It makes total sense, man. I mean, some of my own artistic things are from that. It's like, you're in this one direction, you're kind of doing a lot of this one thing, and then it feels stale, or you're struggling with something, or trying to come up with something new.
Right.
And then you start, you look around at things that aren't even related to what it is that you technically are doing.
Correct.
And you go, well, fuck, if I, use some element, whether it's just inspiration or an actual physical element of this other thing,
right,
in what I'm doing, I can make a whole new thing.
Change the game.
And then I'll get geeked out and like want to keep rolling, you know?
Yeah.
And you got to kind of know you're going to go through slumps, man. Like, like burnout and like whatever. And you just got to know, like you just said, like you got to know how to like what you're, what you got to do to kind of like pull yourself out of it. And sometimes you just need to chill in it for a
Sometimes you just need to accept it.
Yeah.
And it's going to pass and you'll figure it out.
Go back to the classics and make those even better. Then,
right. Or maybe it's something that's not even in the professional. Maybe it's something in my personal life that's causing this. So
totally.
Which is like
probably a lot. Right?
Probably most of the time. You know, it's like things are so clouded in my personal life that I can't get to that creative sweet spot.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
I've noticed that in your, I don't know if it's recent, but some of the things you've been posting lately have been like a little bit different, like a little bit more abstract than what you're doing, which is like so fucking cool to see, man.
Thank you.
So like what is your style? Is it Sailor Jerry or like what? No, like
I don't even know, man. I really don't know. I've at times thought
it runs
that.
If you look at it runs the gambit of everything now.
Yeah. I try to. I don't want to be pigeonholed too much. I'm hoping that I say I'm hoping. I guess I'm now thinking about it. I hope it's just my own thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't try and emulate anything really. If anything, I have my influences, like people that I look up to or whatever, and so that's going to be inevitable that those things come through a lot. But I'm still taking it my own direction, and I somewhat jokingly say, I'm just trying to copy the people that I really admire, but I don't have enough talent, so it comes out looking the way I do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And there's a big element of truth to that, but there's also, that's probably my way of trying to find my own path, you know? But I mean, as far as artistic stuff goes, when I was a little kid, my parents would drop me off at the main library in Saginaw as a babysitter. And I would just hang out in the library for 4 hours while they were at work.
Yeah.
And I would look at art books. And I would always, like, the art books I liked the most were more abstract art. It was like, things like de Kooning or Francis Bacon or like dudes like that. Because my whole thing was like, reality is around me all the time. So why the fuck would I want to look at art based in reality?
Right.
Like, who cares? Yeah. It's like, that's what photographs are for, and they can be sick. And I can appreciate the talent involved in creating something that's realistic, right? But it's already there. I want to see what's going on in somebody's brain, or like this world that someone's creating that's different. And that's the same thing that I feel about with food. Like, I love classics, of course, but like my most exciting things are things that I've never, like ingredients I've never had together before, or something that's like really unexpected and kind of, even if it's not always good, sometimes it's just cool to somebody to see went for it.
A new texture or something. It's like I fall back on the classics when I need like a hug.
Sure.
You're like, you know what I need? I just need a really good steak frites right now.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then it's like sometimes like I want to be challenged.
Yeah.
Let's go eat cod sperm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally. 100%. Yeah, exactly.
So with all the tattooing that was happening, you left, when did you leave Michigan? You left at an early age, right?
Yeah, when I started tattooing, I wasn't even there that long, bro. Like, I tattooed in Saginaw. I got my first stuff in August. And by October, I'd already moved away.
Yeah.
and I was working in Grove City, Pennsylvania for this kind of wild biker dude. And it just didn't really work out, you know, like it was so slow, and he stuck me in a place by myself. So there was nothing to learn at all. Like, you know, being like literally the only person in the shop. And I was living above the shop in like a little room that had like a 3.5 foot high ceiling, and it was kind of crazy. And I was like, yo, this is bad. So I talked to my teacher. He had went traveling, and he was down in Alabama, and he was working at a shop there as a guest. And he's like, look, it's super busy. They need a guy. So I talked to the owner, and he offered me a job.
Nice.
And I gave notice to the guy I worked for, and he immediately told me to get out.
Get the fuck out.
Called me the N-word.
Yeah,
it was pretty insane.
Jesus.
And, it was
that
wild.
makes sense.
And he was just like a violent, kind of gnarly dude in his past. He's a lot at the time, was probably more bark than bite. I don't mean to take anything away from him. He helped me out a lot. I have respect for him. And so like I left the next day, and then ended up down in Alabama, blah 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 blah. I don't remember where the question was going. Yeah, so I wasn't in Michigan very long. Okay, and then I bounced around a lot. Like I was in Alabama for a few years. It was pretty insane there. And I ended up getting a divorce from my kid's mom, and it was just time to leave.
Yeah.
And so I left.
Do you think that that's where your love for travel started?
Yeah, probably. I mean, when I was a little kid, my parents, we would go on road trips occasionally, because my mom's family lived in Missouri, so we'd drive down there, or we'd drive, you know, wherever. So that always seemed really cool, you know? And then looking at Thrasher, they always went on these crazy trips.
Yeah.
And I was like, that looks so sick. And then, just a combination of all those things was where my love for the traveling became. And then even like leaving Alabama, and kind of my plan was to go to Michigan, but somehow I ended up on Ohio, like instead, and stayed there for a little while.
Right.
Like it just felt cool. Yeah. It felt cool to be a little transient, you know? It felt free.
It's super free.
Yeah.
Like the first chef I ever worked for, he gave me great advice. He's like, don't get married till you're ready. Like absolutely ready, if you're ever ready. Yeah. If you want to be successful, don't have kids in this industry, and travel as much as you can. And I was like 18, super impressionable. Yeah. And he, hands down is like one of my mentors. Amazing advice he gave me. Wasn't necessarily the best chef, but at that particular time, being 18-year-old, he taught me so much about the restaurant industry. And I took his advice, and I just started traveling as much as I could. And I think I moved to Spain when I took the job in California, and I moved out to Chicago, and like that opened up the floodgates. Once I saw I moved to Chicago on my own, and I drove there. Once I saw how easy that was, and then it was like once I got to Europe and I saw how easy it was, it was nonstop, and I didn't stop traveling until like a couple of years ago. Yeah. So for me, it was easy, because I can get a job anywhere. And I feel you're in the same boat of you could just pick up and go anywhere and start working. Right. And almost like a freelance kind of like. Yeah. So did you have that kind of attitude? Is that how it came about, or?
Well, it took a while to realize that it was possible. I had a couple of good pieces of advice. I was getting tattooed pretty early into my career. I started in 97. I got tattooed in 98. By this guy, Siv, who was a singer of a band that I loved growing up called Gorilla Biscuits. He's a tattooer. He's a great tattooer and a good friend of mine now. And it was the first time I met him. We were talking about stuff. And I was like, I really want to be able to travel and do guest spots and work in different shops. And he told me, he goes, well, that's really cool. He's like, but what do you have to offer that the people there don't already have?
Great question.
And I was like, oh. And he's like, you shouldn't go traveling until you have something special to give, something different than what is there, because A, what are you bringing there, and B, you're taking away from people who already live there and that are working and trying to do their thing. And I was like, fuck, wow. I was like, okay, I need to work on having something of my own. You know what I mean?
Like a style.
I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
But I also knew that needed to come more organically. Like, I think that like when you're like really focused on, I'm going to do this without any real experience behind your belt, you're just jacking off.
It gets forced.
Yeah. And it's like, like that, it's like kind of pointless. So it dawned on me, you know, I'm like, okay, in 10 years, if I can travel and do stuff, that's going to be sick. In 10 years, if people that I look up to or like whatever in tattooing, you know, recognize me and say hi to me and know my name, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, I'm going to get all this tomorrow, I deserve this. It was like, I have to earn this.
Well, at least you had the foresight to know that.
Right. You know? Well, and it's been so satisfying. I think if it was all just falling into place without any real hard work or effort or, you know, whatever failures, it wouldn't, I don't know if it, I can't imagine it would feel as good.
It wouldn't.
You know what I mean?
It'd feel less earned.
Yeah.
Like in the back of your mind, it's almost imposter syndrome.
Yeah, totally.
You know,
Totally.
right?
I mean, like in tattooing, there's like, you know, we used to carry portfolios around with all of our work in them. And there's dudes that give it all away to build their portfolio. But I always thought it was cool that every picture in my portfolio was paid full price for.
Yeah.
That felt like success.
Great.
It didn't feel like I just, you know, flashed everybody my tits.
Well, it's like
you know what I'm
saying?
saying? Like,
It felt earned, like you said.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, so it's been cool in that way. I don't know. I probably got off topic.
No, the whole podcast is getting off topic. Like, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Yeah, same. I'm like,
when growing up, did your family have any relationship with food? I mean, being from the Midwest, like I ate Sbarro at the mall. Like that was like,
dude.
like a birthday was like, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Red Lobster? Or do you want to go to Olive Garden? Like there was
dude,
no.
That's like in my mind, Red Lobster was like where the rich people.
That was like
Pizza Hut was where the rich people.
Yeah, it was like Red Lobster. My birthday maybe once in a while. It's like Red Lobster. Like fuck,
Sick.
man, we're doing it.
Yeah,
man. Like wow, it's a special occasion. You know.
Oh man.
Yeah.
My parents, man, like we'd eat Little Caesars a lot, which is still my favorite.
I love Little
It's
Caesars, man. Pizza.
People that hate on it can fuck off.
Yeah.
We you know, we didn't eat a variety of shit, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was pretty like fucking pizza and cheeseburgers and bullshit. And like I remember my dad trying to teach me how to cook chicken on the grill, and his big piece of advice was, you know, it's done when it splits. You know what I'm saying? I never had a fucking piece of red meat that wasn't brown and pretty tough.
Same, right.
Like until I was older. You know what I mean? Which like I still don't fucking hate like a medium well steak. I don't care. Like it's fine. It's so that it was weird. I didn't eat much, man. Like I could honestly until I don't know. Maybe 12, 13 years ago, I probably didn't eat more things than you could count on my fingers.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
I didn't eat anything till I started cooking.
Yeah.
Until I was like forced to taste stuff. I remember I never ate mayonnaise. I thought it was disgusting until the day I made it. And I was like 19 years old. We made mayonnaise. It was the first time I ever tasted mayonnaise.
Shit.
And I was like, okay.
I still don't love mayonnaise.
Yeah,
I'm not going to lie. Like sometimes I've had it where I'm like, oh, that's pretty sick. But when it's like straight up kind of like the classic mayonnaise, it's not my favorite. How in Denmark they put it on all the sushi and stuff. You're like, come on, guys, what are you doing? I'll be honest. Like for me, like getting into food was a combination of I was working in New York and I had a couple of clients that were chefs that like talked me into coming to eat at their place. Nice. And then also watching Bourdain on TV.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
What was the first breakout meal that you had then?
Okay, the first one
the
first one that I really remember is this kid Jason Pfeiffer, who was he was, I think, and forgive me if I'm a little off, but I think he was the sous chef at Myelina.
Okay.
In New York.
Yes.
At the time, he's doing all kinds of cool shit now. But he invited me to come, and I went with my friend Steve Byrne, and he just made a menu. Okay, never had that before.
Yeah,
I was a little nervous. Okay, and it was sick. Like, not only was everything that he sent out fucking great, okay, but what was cool was the experience in general. They asked what kind of drinks we wanted to have. Steve. I just started drinking alcohol at that point. I still don't drink much, But Steve and still doesn't drink alcohol, but he likes non-alcoholic beer. So he asked, he said, hey, do you have any non-alcoholic lager? And they're like, no, we don't. I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, okay, no problem. And he orders something else. 5-10 minutes go by and they bring out a non-alcoholic lager. And he's like, oh, I thought you said you didn't have it. And they're like, no, we sent somebody down to a bodega to get it for you. And in that moment, I was like, fucking wow.
There's a whole other world to this.
Hospitality is so sick.
Yeah.
It's so sick. And it's like, it seems to be lost on a lot of people for some reason, which I think is insane. But it's like, what a fucking cool thing. Like, I got tingles just retelling the story, because it's like what an amazing thing. It's not just going to eat, man. You know, there's so much more to it.
It's being taken care of.
Dude, totally. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I still, to this day, for me, it's 60% front of house, 40% food.
Always.
You know what I mean?
You're going to go back to a restaurant if you felt you were treated properly and you left, and there's hugs on the way out.
Totally.
And the food was good. It wasn't memorable, but it was good.
Yeah.
As opposed to the food being so exceptional and you felt like an asshole. The guy's treating like a dick. I'm never going back to that place.
I've had a couple meals like that.
I've had many.
Like, everything was fucking incredible, but the service was so shitty or whatever else, where I'm like, fuck that place. I hope it burns to the ground.
Yeah. It's the hospitality industry. It's not the food tasting menu industry.
Well, on a side note, I kind of tend to wonder if sometimes the people in that position in the restaurants have never ate at a great restaurant where they've gotten great hospitality.
Great choice. Yeah.
Because it's like if you've never experienced it, you probably don't understand how important it is.
Or you're missing it, or the ego just gets involved, and I'm going to do what I want to do. You know, which maybe stems from the chef. You know, it's I read this one time. I'm not going to say who it is, but I read an article one time. This guy was opening up a restaurant. It was a restaurant of magnitude, and he was a somebody, and the article was basically him being quoted and saying, we want to get 3 Michelin stars. We want to be the world's best restaurant. We want to be known. We wanted this. We want awards. And it wasn't about, we want to serve the people coming in and we have an idea and what we want to do is this.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was just like, dude, you're missing it, man. Yeah. And when me and Matthew talk about opening Iggy's, I want people we talk about this all the time. It's like, I want people to walk in and feel like they're walking into mom's house for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
She greets you at the door. She takes your coat. She makes you a drink. She sits you on the couch. She makes sure nobody's making fun of you. She lets you know when dinner's ready. It's no stress. It's all hugs, and we leave. We're just like, It's like a warm hug from mom.
Yeah.
And that's what we want people to come in and experience.
Wait to go back.
Like awards, like, fuck out of here, man. Like, that's the least of my concerns, you know? But at one point, I get it. At one point in my 20s, like, that's what I was enamored by. I was like, I always thought like longevity and job security was going to be, if I get this award, then I can start writing my own thing, and then I'll be able to open a restaurant. People are going to give me money. And it was like, I was, brainwashed by thinking those things were going to help me. Right. When they were just sort of additives added to it. And what really helped me along is when I stopped thinking about that and I just started cooking for the people coming in, or I started cooking for myself. And I had many conversations of like, if I like this and I think this is good, other people are going to like it too.
Completely.
You know?
Dude. Completely.
And that opened up a lot of doors in my brain to like, let all of these things go, all this nonsense go, and just start cooking from the heart and start, saying hello to people in the dining room.
Yeah.
And when I started doing that, people were, oh my God, the chef came by to the table. And it's like, I just said hello,
Yeah, totally.
So the hospitality industry is losing the hospitality sense.
Yeah.
Some people are doing it really well. But like you said, have they ever even been to a restaurant where they get treated well?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's it's the same thing in tattooing. It's like, if you haven't been tattooed in a great tattoo shop, one of the best ones by some of the quote unquote best people, you might not get it, man.
What makes a great tattoo then? In that realm of everything we just talked about.
Oh, geez. Well, that's all by the eye of the beholder. I mean, everybody's gonna have their own opinion on that one, for sure.
Well, also, but everyone's gonna have their own opinion about what a great restaurant is, what a great experience is. So
that is true.
Yeah.
I think, something that is, I don't know. I only know what I like.
Okay, so what are you doing to kind of make a custom experience, or making sure,
I try my best to be as nice as I can to people.
Right.
Every now and then, man, like, look, we're all humans. Some days I don't feel like talking. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I still try and give people as best experiences I can give. Try and make the environment unique. You know, the shop itself has its own kind of thing. Tattoo wise, artistically, I just try and make it as solid as I can and you know, have energy. And sometimes energy comes from it not being technically perfect. You know, actually most of the time I think it comes from that. Yeah. I think that like a striving to, okay, when you're new, you got to strive to be technically perfect to kind of get your basics.
A foundation of what you're doing, right?
But once you've been doing something for 10, 12 years or more, I think that a lot of times, from what I've seen, the people that put their main focus on it being technically perfect are people that don't tend to have a super, you know, I don't want to insult people, but like a super artistic aesthetic to what they're doing or in general, right? So they focus on this technical technique thing, you know, and they're like, okay, cool, that's cool. I don't really give a shit about that. Yeah. I want to look at it and be like, fuck, that's sick. Like, and it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with food. It's the same thing with all that. I don't care if so-and-so can play guitar really incredible. If I don't really like the way it sounds, who fucking cares? Right? My brain isn't attuned to appreciate that. Right?
Or I don't know. Is that technical? I don't know. Right. I had a great time at this concert.
Exactly.
Well, you know, it's not that technical. It's kind of sloppy. But I had fun.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I like this tattoo, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, to some degree, there's this whole element of, like, the more you know about something, I wonder if you can enjoy it as much. Because I've ate dinners with, like, chefs before that I thought the dinner was sick, but they got a problem with some aspect of it. Right. From top to bottom, there's something that's keeping them from digging it, right? And like, I'm like, man, I'm stoked I don't know. I'm so stoked I don't know.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I go into a restaurant and you're always working, even though I try to turn the brain off. You're always just kind of looking around. Oh, look what they did there, blah, 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 blah. And then food comes and, you know, it's good or, you know, my brain just, and I try to turn it off. Just fucking enjoy yourself, man.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes to the hospitality aspect of like, engage with the people you're at the table with. Like, let's not talk about the food. Let's talk about what's going on in their lives. And then you kind of have a dinner experience together as opposed to just picking apart. Well, the leek's a little crunchy. You know?
Sure. No, totally. But I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I like going to a meal and it just being a critique thing. Yeah. Like, especially like, because I don't know. And it's fun to go with another guy that don't know. And we're just talking about our own thing. Yeah. Because like, it's, you know, sometimes I really enjoy that a lot. But but also I'm very well aware that my opinion doesn't mean fucking anything. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people, like, they think their opinion matters. Like, mine doesn't matter. Unless you ask me. Sure. If you say, hey, Chad, tell me what you think.
Yeah, I really want to know. Yeah. Like, what can we do better?
Then I'll tell you.
Yes.
And I try and tell you is the most objective way I can. I've been really fortunate that some people who I really respect their cooking have asked me. And I'm like, man, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know much, but I got opinions. Right. I'm an opinionated motherfucker. Yeah, right. I'm not gonna lie. You know, like I could, holy shit. Yeah. But you know, so like on that end, you're like really excited. Somebody wants to know what you think. You know, but yeah, I mean,
I don't ask unless I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, like really ready to be like, okay, man, like, and not so much roast me or pick it apart, but like certain people. It's like either I know their delivery is going to be soft and educational, right? As opposed to asking somebody and trying to read through the lines, right? You know, it's like there's certain people. It's like, okay, man, what did you think? You know.
Well, I think if you're gonna be tasked with the privilege of critiquing something for someone, you have to have enough fucking sense to find something praiseworthy and something that needs to change.
Yes.
Or if it's all totally fucked, have the balls to totally tell somebody, hey, I couldn't find anything redeeming there. Or be straight up. You don't have to find a problem with something if you enjoyed every bit of it. I've had dinners where people have asked me what I thought, and I genuinely didn't have a fucking criticism. Right.
Sometimes I don't have an opinion. I mean? Sometimes I just don't have a fucking opinion on it, man. I'm like, oh, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
You know,
sometimes I'm like, I mean, I'll give the praise, man. I'm like, oh, that was so sick.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm like, oh, it was cool. You know what I mean? But yeah, but like, if you really want to know if something's not good, like, I mean, but that, then there's like, you know, what direction are you trying to make? Like, I was talking to my
Are you
friend
fishing for compliments, or do you really want to know?
Well, also in general, like, like I was talking to my friend about it yesterday about like seasoning. Like, I like things aggressively seasoned. I can appreciate subtleties, like, because we were talking about food in Japan and how a lot of it's quite subtle, right? But then I thought, you know, well, it's subtle and it works in Japan because most things in Japan are relatively subtle.
That's the palate.
So when you have an American palate, for example, you know, a lot of times those subtle things that I think some chefs are going for as like their partial or total homage to Japanese things, like, that's sick, but like, you're not dealing with the same palate, homie.
Right.
Like, so,
Correct.
so like, I get what you're trying to do, but I think you're going to end up with some confusion maybe. But at the same time, I'm all about you doing whatever the fuck you want.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. Like, I don't have to like what you're doing, right? But like, if that's what you want to do, I firmly believe you should fucking do it.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, but I definitely think that I wonder sometimes if that's something that people will kind of take into consideration or not. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So I got a great story. My girl Angie, who's not a food person at all until she met me, and she was like, I didn't even know this world existed. I just kind of ate for fuel and just kind of whatever. And now she's like, now I'm getting her to a point where, you know, she's actually having fun. So we were in Copenhagen, we ate Alouette. Alouette was just like a punch you in the face, truffles, chicken jus reduction, you know, mashed potato-y. It was fucking so delicious in that old school kind of like setting. But every dish was like better than the next. It's like caviar, foie gras, truffles, you know, red wine sauce on potato with braises. It was just like so fucking good.
Yeah.
We jumped over to Paris and we went to Maison Soto, which is like very Japanese, Japanese French. And it was extremely subtle, so subtle. And I was like, this is fucking amazing, because obviously I've been doing this for a while. I've lived in both places, and each course was like this and that. And I was explaining, and she's like, I fucking hate this meal. I hated it. She's like, I don't get it. And she kept referencing, well, Alouette was this. And I'm like, babe, we went from France, you know, French American style cooking, heavy reductions, 1970s kind of like outlook, which was amazing, to like this Japanese omotenashi kind of, and she's like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. All I know is like that meal was better than this one. Right. And it's like, I couldn't argue with her because I know where she's at in her life and her career with her palate. And it was what I was saying was just so far over her head of like the way he seasoned the fish with these cherry blossoms. And she's like, yeah, I don't get it. I was like,
yeah,
you know?
No, totally.
So,
well, do you think there's a difference between subtle and under seasoned?
Extremely. Yes,
even
you are
that
correct.
stuff is still seasoned. And I think like, you know, I ate a dinner. I'm not going to say where or whatever. I don't really want to. I don't want to name names, but I had this dinner where there was a very good chef and he was cooking things and he didn't put salt on anything.
Fuck, man.
And it's like, hey, I get it. You want to showcase the ingredient, but you still gotta have a little
You gotta
salt,
add some,
homeboy.
yeah,
like,
right,
you know what
right.
I'm saying? And it was a bummer.
Yeah, there's a difference.
But I started doing a thing that Thomas Keller, I read, he does.
He brings the Malden salt.
Keeps it in his pocket. I got a little
like,
tin. Yeah, totally.
What if you're cooking for Thomas Keller and all of a sudden he's just like, I'd be like, hey guys, you finish this. I'm gonna go jump off the roof right now, man.
But like, what's wrong with that though, right? Like,
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Exactly.
If it makes your meal better and you're having a great time,
totally.
But for me, it's kind of like,
totally.
But there's a difference between subtlety and under-seasoned. There's a difference between simplicity and laziness also.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
So did we answer the question on...
Well, you asked about...
right.
So
we're on a lot of side missions right now.
I went to the Myelina thing. It blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, I left New York. I wasn't working there. I was traveling around. I was at a convention in Amsterdam. And this is the thing that really fucking cinched it for me. Like, really fucking... And I was at this... I had a day after the convention. Everybody I knew left, right? And
you're in Amsterdam by yourself.
Yeah, so I'm in Amsterdam by myself. I don't stay in the red light. I don't stay in that part. I
yeah.
stay slightly on the outskirts. So anyway, I'm looking around and I'm like new to the whole game, man. So I'm like looking on the Michelin thing, like what's a Michelin star place?
What year is this?
2010.
Okay.
Early 2010. And I'm like, yo, I got to go to a Michelin place. That's so sick, whatever. And there was a place 2 fucking streets over from me called La Rive, which was in the Amstel Hotel.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, fucking, let's see. And I call, and they're like, yeah, you can have a reservation at 5 o'clock. You know, and I'm like,
Koeplinger.
yeah. Hey, gosh, you want some beer? But I was like sick. So I'd go there, and I go into the restaurant, and it's really, it's in the basement of the hotel. It's beautiful, right on the river. Not a single soul in this motherfucking restaurant.
Oh, you're like, what did I do?
And I'm like, oh, fuck. And they have a tasting menu, or they have a la carte, and I'm like, I'm not ready for a tasting menu. So, like, of course, I get, like, the beef, and a scallop. Oh, wait, I had one other fucking thing. I'll rewind to a total previous experience that predates both of these, but this is the one, okay? So, this one in Amsterdam. So, I'm like, all right, cool. And, like, all the waiters are, like, standing around, kind of staring at me and shit. And I'm like, all right. And they start bringing out amuse bouches, and I'm like, oh, what's this stuff?
I didn't order this.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, and I'm eating it. And I'm like, whoa, most of these are in my wheelhouse. Fuck it, I'm gonna go for it. And then they bring out this tomato. And at the time, I thought I hated tomatoes.
I hated tomatoes too. Yeah.
And this tomato though, I was like, well, I gotta eat it. These motherfucking Dutch bastards are staring at me. And the guy's like, oh, this is a baby tomato that we pull the sauce. I'm gonna quit doing the fake accent. But he's like, they peel it and they soak it overnight in an Asian sauce, whatever the fuck that means. I'm thinking ponzu. And then they fucking bread it, fry it, candy it with honey and ginger, sesame seeds, and it's on top of a granita where all the honey and ginger goes down into it, right? So you get your salty, your sweet, your crunchy, your soft, your umami, your fucking cold and hot all at the same time. I'm not thinking any of this. I'm thinking it's a fucking tomato. Fuck. And I just say, fuck it. And I got my water right here in case I got to pill it. I fucking go. Pop. And I'm like, holy shit. This is the fucking best thing I've ever heard. Like, oh my God.
The scene in Ratatouille.
There's like smoke popping out of my ears. And I'm like looking at these dudes. I'm like, holy shit, man. And then the fucking guy comes over and he's like, did you like it? Did you like it? And I was like, the fucking coolest thing I've ever ate. I was like, I've never fucked with a tomato. I always thought I hate them, but that was amazing. He's like laughing. He's like, cool. And I'm thinking, man, this place looks so stuffy, but these dudes aren't stuffy at all. They're sick. Yeah. And a couple minutes later, he comes out with another fucking tomato. Because he said, I told Chef how much you loved it, and he wanted you to have another.
Try it again, yeah. And I was like, that's so cool, man.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
And the food was fucking amazing from top to bottom. The dudes were mad cool. I enjoyed every second of it, and I went back several times. They always remembered me. Yeah. They remembered exactly what I ate because they probably made notes. You know what I mean? Which is fucking awesome, but it makes you feel so fucking good, man. Mm-hmm. I took my kid there on her 13th birthday. It's still one of the best meals she ever had. Even though in her mind, she thinks that, but she definitely didn't want to eat most of it because she's a 13-year-old kid. Yeah. They had the sickest cheese trolley. They had everything, dude. It was so good. And to this day, there was like things they did that like, sometimes I wish other places would do, just like the way they'd plate something. They had this one thing, some kind of fish, I can't remember exactly, but it was like plated in this kind of cool semicircle. But all along it, there was all these different things. So every bite was this totally different experience, but it still had the base, like 2 things. And it was just so fucking amazing. You know what I mean? Like you're eating it and you're just like, your brain's going, it was great, man. It was such a great restaurant.
That was the experience that set it all off.
Yeah. And that was like, I need this more. I need to, this is like an art, Definitely. Like this is going and checking out an art exhibition or a museum or whatever the fuck. And sometimes it's going to suck and sometimes it's going to be fucking incredible. Yes. And it was just like this whole new thing that I can spend all my money on. Mm-hmm. Great. You know what I mean? But I do want to rewind. Yeah, please. The very, very first weird, like, to me, strange thing that I ever had, I was in Egypt. I was in Cairo. There was a French restaurant in the Hilton that had just opened that day. It was their first day. I didn't know that. I went down to eat. thinking I just wanted a goddamn steak, which
Don't
I
say
ended up
camel.
getting.
Don't say camel.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. No, but it was a beef steak, right? But I ordered some scallop thing, not really thinking. I'm just like, oh, I guess I'll eat scallops in Egypt. And you know what it was, dude? It was fucking thinly sliced raw like scallops in veal jus with white truffle ice cream on top. Oh, fuck. And it was fucking insanely good.
Awesome.
It was so good, dude. It was crazy. But it wasn't enough for me to be like, I need to do this all the time. It was like, well, that was crazy.
It's a good one-off.
Yeah. But then it just kind of morphed into this other thing. And then from La Rive, man, it just went, you know? Like, and then my friend Aitor lived in DC. We knew him through some people.
When did you meet him?
2012. I think I met him 3 days before El Bulli closed.
Okay.
So he was headed out to El Bulli, and that's when I met him. But he hooked me up with this dude, Soren, who used to work at Noma, who got me a reservation at Noma in 2012. And that was really the fucking cincher. Going to Noma for the first time, when you show up and the majority of the fucking staff is there to greet you.
Hospitality.
Oh my God. And James Spreadbury was the
man.
the dude.
Yes.
Oh, he still is. Like, I love that guy.
Uh-huh.
He's one of the best dudes I've ever met in my life.
Definitely.
And
he's so good.
oh my God, dude. Like he's like the gold standard.
Yeah.
Platinum, whatever the fuck. But anyway, he and the whole staff made it amazing. Rosio was still there. I can't even remember now, but it was like the meal was fucking mind blowing. The way they would like hit you with all those things right away.
Boom, boom,
then
boom.
it slowed down. And then like taking the tour and him showing us everything. And then that weekend it was a tattoo convention. I tattooed some people. I tattooed James and a couple other people from Noma that weekend. And we just became homies. And that just changed everything for me. Because I was like, this is just the fucking
You're like, what the fuck just happened, man?
Ever.
Yeah.
Like, how can something be so cool? How can you know, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to put it into words.
I think it's a lot of Renee's personality also, but if it wanted to be, it could be the most pretentious fuck off place on the face of the fucking earth, and rightfully so, and it would still be just as busy. But the fact that it's kind of, you go there, Renee comes out, and everybody's running the food, and the guy that just started working there 2 days ago, who's from fucking somewhere in Finland, is serving you this, and he's so fucking pumped. And the server comes by, and James comes by, he's like, hey, everybody, how's it going? And he's like, hey, what's up, blah, 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 blah. And it's so casual and friendly and open, but you're also having this mind-blowing meal of like half the stuff I don't even know what they're talking about. Totally. You're like, oh, this is like some weed that grows in the northern region of Copenhagen, and what we did was blah 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 blah. I was like, I lost you after weed. Like, what the fuck is this?
The first thing they brought out was moss. And they it was kind of fucked up because they set the there was like 2 pieces of moss on one thing, and there was 3 because there was 5 of us, and they set the one right in front of me. So I just ate both. And my friend, Deno, the Spanish guy, who's a really good friend of mine, didn't get any. And he's like, bro, where is my mouse? Where is my mouse, bro? And he's like, but I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no, bro. Maybe it's just like the thing. Maybe they're bringing it out later. He's like, I don't know. And then next stuff coming, he's like, I didn't get the mosque. And I was like, I don't know. It was so fucking funny.
I don't know. Let's just move on.
Yeah. I'm like, I got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was whatever. It was so sick.
Yeah. Dude, when I started, I must have just missed you by like a couple months. I started working in like summer of 2013 or 2014, actually. It was 2014, summer of 2014. I spent like a year there with them.
Okay.
And you know, I knew Renee from the French Laundry back in the day. So I've known that guy for fucking forever.
Yeah.
So when I was on this like tour, quitting my job in Chicago, trying to find myself, you know, trying to get my mojo back of like work. I was working for like this corporation, and it beat the shit out of me for a while. Then I went to Noma, was hanging out. Howie Kahn, who's a food writer in New York, was doing a big story on Renee for the Wall Street Journal, I think, of like Person of the Year or something.
Right.
So, you know, I was working in a test kitchen with like Thomas and Lars, and Renee comes to me and says, hey, Ryan, this American journalist is coming, and I want you to eat with him. You know, he's dying by himself, so you're American, he's American. Like at that place is like if you were from a certain country, you were the spokesperson. You were the ambassador of that country. Whether you knew anything about the country or not, is like, oh, there's somebody from Germany. Here you go. This is your ambassador of Noma today. And you had to like show this person around and talk to them. You're like, oh, I got so many things to do right now. So me and Howie sit down, and it was one of those like aha moments of what the fuck is this? We're having this meal, and this is like this. I ate at Noma like 2005 when I was like traveling. I was living in Spain, and I was friends with Renan. We went and visited him for a little bit. And I hadn't eaten there since. So me and Howie sat down. We had a couple little bites and kind of just getting to know each other. You're sitting down with a complete stranger at fucking dinner. And it turned out he's still a very good friend of mine now. They brought us this dish of mulberries that they had picked specially. You know, there's a special mulberry tree that was just like candy, man. And they were tossed in a grasshopper garum.
Nice.
And there was a broth or something else that was on it. And they put the dish in front of us and explained what it was. And we're like, okay, we're in the middle of a conversation. We both took a bite and we stopped talking. And it was maybe like a 3-bite dish. And there was silence at the table. Yeah. And then we finished eating. And I tried to scoop up anything that was left. And we finally both looked up and made eye contact. We're just like, what the fuck just happened? Yeah. What was that? And it was this flavors of this grass. It was sweet mulberries of this salty, earthy grasshopper. There's a couple other components I don't remember, but I just remember sitting there and being like, I know nothing about cooking. Yeah. I know absolutely nothing. Yeah. And I'd been there like a month or so, and I was in the test kitchen with them, and they speak this language of, I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. Yeah. And I was just kind of washing dishes. I didn't know what to do. Yeah. And it was at that moment I was like, I don't know anything about cooking. It's like and after that day, it was like my first day in the kitchen again. Yeah. Of like that moment of like, fuck, man, just like the tomato moment. Yeah. Like this set me on a trajectory of there's still, and I didn't think that I knew everything. I worked at some great places, and I had my own kind of like American style. I realized that there was like not a whole nother world, because I always knew there was things were pushing the envelope and stuff, but Noma's in its own little realm, pushing envelopes that some people will never get to experience or don't even know exists, man.
Completely, man. And I mean, I think that, you know, when people in the media and shit are like bitching about, you know, people working there for free, blah, 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 blah. It's like, you're going to get a fucking education.
It's a master's
like
degree.
What they're supposed to pay you?
It's a fucking master's degree, right? Yeah.
I mean, if I were in that position in any kind of tattoo equivalent, I would have paid them.
You don't have to do this also.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Nobody fooled you. It wasn't a bait and switch. Like,
you can leave anytime you want.
$100,000 and then, no, actually it's free.
Yeah,
like, no, you knew what the fuck you were getting into.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
I think like you separate the wheat from the chaff that way. Yeah. And like this whole idea that everybody is worth it and everybody is valuable as what, like, no, it's not true.
Right.
You're not. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, you're valuable in some other way, but just not that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's an internship, man.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're not work. It's not like everybody that works there can't quit and they're handcuffed to the stoves and everybody's been there for 10 years and haven't made a dime.
Totally, man.
So
look, some people are going to get their feelings hurt. Okay.
Right.
Like, that's life, man. Let me tell you something, man. I got in this argument with this chef kid in England about all this because he was whatever. And I'm like, yo, homeboy, like, he's like trying to tell me about how, like, oh, well, you know, in your industry, there's probably no like physical intimidation and this and this and this. And I'm like, what the fuck do you know? Okay, you know how I like learned how to do a clean like outline ever? I was relatively new. I was working at a shop. The helper guy was a vet, okay? And I thought I was doing okay, but I really wasn't, okay? A guy comes in to get a POW MIA tattoo, okay? And the guy takes me, we all had individual rooms. I'm in my room getting ready, and he comes in, and he fucking grabs me by my throat, right? And he fucking throws me against the wall, and he tells me, he goes, yo, if you fuck this up, I'm going to take you in the back, and I'm going to smash your hands with a hammer.
Yeah.
No joke.
Yeah.
Okay? What did I do? I fucking did a good job.
Right.
And I took it more seriously, and I worked harder. Yeah. I didn't go, I'm so sad, I'm upset, he hurt my ego. Like, I'm going to quit and, you know, fuck that. It made me work harder, man. Because you know what? He wouldn't have grabbed me by my throat and said that if he didn't respect me as a human being.
Or didn't see something in you didn't see in yourself. Yes.
Right.
I wanted you to do better. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it's like, so this kid in England, I was just like, all right, dude, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know shit, man. Like, you know, you're a fragile guy. Go do a fragile job. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, you wanna be in a fucking real world where shit's rough and tumble? You're not gonna make it. Fuck off.
Are there extreme cases? Absolutely. Yeah. Are there people that abuse it? Absolutely. But
yeah, of course.
But
of
like,
course. Yeah.
Look at Wall Street, man. Like this has happened. This is running rampant everywhere, man. Totally, so you just can't single out a certain thing. And again, no one's forcing you to do this, man.
No, and you know what? Also, I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but if you don't like it, stand up for yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Fucking somebody 100%. Hit you, fucking hit them back harder.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying?
Or fucking leave. Or go somewhere else.
Or sack up and just be like, hey, man, check it out.
Right.
Service is over. Can we go outside and talk?
Yes.
Hey, that was a little much for me. Mm-hmm. Maybe we could find a different way to fucking handle this.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, be proactive. Yeah. Don't fucking just go and write a little blog about it or whatever. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Do something. You know? Like, I don't know, man. But
and also it's like once you leave that place, you're gonna go and take that name and fucking throw it around as much as you can and make as much money as you can about it.
Exactly.
So what are we fucking doing here, man? What's the trade off? You know,
100.
I'm gonna get a little bit of free help for a couple months.
Totally.
You're gonna fuck a lot of shit up. It's gonna take me longer to teach you how to fucking do the things that I want you to do and do it right. And by the time you finally get it, it's going to be your last week.
Exactly.
And then you're going to go and you're going to take my name and you're going to get any job you want anywhere. This is going to open so many doors for you. So what's the trade-off, man?
1,000,000%. It's the same thing in tattooing, man. Like, we have the same kind of shit. And it's just like, yeah, it's fucking stupid. And then you got all these other motherfuckers that have an opinion that have never even been to this place.
Totally.
It's like this guy, the fucking Eater New York guy who
Which one?
I don't remember what his name is, but he's some jack off that's like, places like that shouldn't exist, and I can't imagine it would be as good as people say. It's like, you've never been there, so shut the fuck
25
up.
25 years
dude.
old,
you know, like my idea of good food is roti or whatever, and this and that. It's like, it's great food, but great food comes in all kinds of different ways.
Right.
Like you're not special because you want to eat like the poor man's food, like because the poor man's food's sick. Like, we can all agree on that. Like, so you don't go beyond that.
Well, you can have two thoughts at the same time.
Like, you should have an opinion to influence other people.
Yeah.
Like fuck, dude. Like, I think like those with the most open minds should be the ones spreading their opinions. Okay.
Right.
Like, people with closed minds and no real experience. Right. Why do they even get a say?
I don't know. A lot of them are just hit jobs too.
Yeah, you know? Dude. Right. Totally.
Clicks. Everything's about the clicks.
Oh, fuck a click, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
Where do you think... I think, like, the tattoo world, the music industry, the restaurant industry, they have this synergy to them.
Yeah.
You know? Everything you've been saying, I've been relating to the way I've come up about things, the apprenticeships, the people grab me by the throat, the working the long hours, the sweeping the floor, be the last one there, first one in.
Yeah.
How do you think, like, all three of those? Because I know a lot of chefs that if they weren't cooking, they would be in some sort of art. They would be in a band. I started out by playing bass, and I just gravitated towards cooking because I needed money, and then cooking just took up all of my time. Right. If I didn't start cooking, I'd probably still be in a garage band somewhere.
Right.
Why do you think that those three things are so entwined and connected? Or do you even think that they are?
No, I definitely think they are.
Yeah.
I think that while all of them entail responsibility, discipline, hard work, determination, and drive, and to a lot of degrees, structure that other people provide for you, there's still a huge amount of freedom in all of those things. And sometimes that freedom is disguised in learning something that's already set out for you. But those are your building blocks to be able to do something else.
Right.
And it's not... some of it is still a mystery, which makes it very exciting. And not all of it's been totally explored, but there's enough of a foundation in all three of those things that you're able to get excited about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's not the same old shit. You know, you're not clocking in and clocking out the way that like an office worker is. No disrespect to the office workers, man, but like it's just a different thing.
It's definitely for some people.
Yeah.
I got so attracted to it because it wasn't the 9 to 5 that was pushed down your throat. I started work at noon.
Right.
I got off at like 10:30.
Right.
You know, I was drinking vodka sodas. The guys would sneak me into the bar
Right.
at like 18 years old drinking vodka. I'm like, this is the life for me, man.
Right,
Like,
right,
sign
right.
me up.
Yeah.
And I think it was the rebellious side of me of like, my parents had nothing to add to it. Right. They couldn't be like, well, you know, what you really got to do is they had no fucking idea what I was doing, how I was doing it. And then they couldn't like interject their own personal experiences and say, well, you know, when I was your age doing this, and it was all on me with all that responsibility. And then, you know, I moved out really shortly after high school.
Right.
And I was kind of been on my own ever since, just kind of paving my own way. And anytime I did fall back on someone who tried to give me advice that wasn't involved in that, it was always the fucking worst advice ever.
Totally.
And, you know, it's like, there was this conflict of like, oh, I took their advice. And I'm like, this is, so anytime I went against my gut reaction of like, hey man, I don't really think you know what you're talking about, but you know, you're young and impressionable. You did it anyway. It was a terrible decision, you know?
Totally,
so,
man. No, completely. I probably was in a lot of the same kind of notion with that. You know, I've been pretty much on my own.
Early, I mean, you left school,
My mom croaked when I was 15.
Yeah.
My dad shortly after moved to Detroit with this lady that he met, became my stepmom. He still had the house, but I lived in it by myself.
Yeah.
Right? Which was
no siblings.
No. I got people that I refer to as brothers and sisters, but they're not blood. But like I was there just on my own. And then right before I turned 18, my dad, I remember it was a Tuesday. My dad's like, hey, selling the house, getting new carpet put in Thursday. You need to be out before Thursday. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I think like my birthday was a couple weeks away. And I was like, sure. And I moved into like my friend's house. We had this little punk rock house thing happening. It was sick. But I've been on my own ever since. Nobody ever helped me out. I had never had anything if I didn't make it, and it happened a couple times, I was homeless. Yeah. There was nobody to give me money for food or to help me in any way. Other than maybe a homie that could give you buy you a slice of pizza or something.
Right? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like I had to make it, dude. I didn't have nothing to fall back on. I wonder that these days with people all the people quitting their jobs and doing all this shit, how are they gonna live?
I don't know where they're going, man.
They
I don't
must
know
have
what's
like
happening.
parents with money or something. I don't know, which is cool. Like I don't hate on anybody.
Yeah, no, that's a great but that's a lot of people with a lot of parents with a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I'm like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
like I don't know. I think it's kind of strange, and look, it's their life, but I don't get it. Mm-hmm. But I never had that, so yeah. I mean, the freedom of it, like man, working these other crazy jobs, bro, like for more structured bullshitty kind of things. Pretty tough. Right. And when tattooing came along and all the possibilities that were before it and all that was like, man, this is so cool.
What were some of your early goals when you first started out? How did that get set up? Like I had a lot of mentors put me on a great path, and working in France was from 1995, before the Food Network, before Top Chef, before, chefs were celebrities, before it was cool. Before it was like, I got a job in a kitchen. People were like, what? You know, like the hired help kind of. Yeah. Everybody said, you got to go to France. You got to work in France. You got to figure it out. Yeah. Like that was like the overall structure of like one day. Yeah. And that's where my goal was. And I don't know when it was going to happen. Yeah. How I couldn't even find France on a map. Yeah. Let alone buy an airline ticket. Yeah. There were no apps where I could just be like, oh, Southwest has a deal. Yeah. Go to France, Yeah, exactly. Like an airline ticket was like $60 for like Paris. Rich people, like an airline ticket. Yeah. And that was the goal. That was the pinnacle of like working in Europe. It's like, what did you have any of those experiences of like, as you're coming up of like things people said you needed to do, you got to go work in New York, you got to work for this guy, you got to figure it out. Like, what is the goals and pinnacles of a tattoo artist?
Man, I think they're so different for everybody, like that shop in Alabama I was working at, man, like they just beat it into my head that it was all about making money. And, like, you're not going to make that much money in these other places if you leave here. In reality, they just didn't want to lose their workers. But like, I think for me, it became as I grew in it and refined my tastes as far as other tattooers that I liked, a lot of it became I want to work with and or for so-and-so. The main one was Ed Hardy, who's like my favorite tattooer of all time. Most important tattooer of all time, I think.
Right, yeah.
And
legend, no?
It was like, I remember sitting with a friend of mine in Sacramento when I went to do a guest spot at this shop, which was also a pretty famous shop, the first one that I ever really worked at that was like super well known or whatever.
Where's that?
And it was in Sacramento. It was this place called American Graffiti back in the day.
Oh, fuck, I know that place.
Yeah. So I was like,
has it been on
guessing
TV a couple times? I feel like I know that name.
I'm not sure.
Or at least
I don't know,
referenced.
maybe.
At least
Probably
referenced.
referenced.
Yeah.
It was a pretty important shop back in the day. And I remember talking to my friend, you know, and I was just like, you know, my goal would be to work for Ed someday. And, but, you know, within 2 years, Ed called me and offered me a job.
Yeah.
But due to the circumstances of the time, I couldn't take it, which was like one of the hardest things ever. There's been a couple times where I've been offered jobs at places that were like a dream, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
For one reason or another. The thing with Ed's was logical because of my kid and whatever else at the time. The other shop was because of a girl that turned out to be like the worst thing ever. I made this, you know, but like life's treating me well anyway. Yeah, totally. But like that kind of shit was probably the main thing. Was like, you know, and then like I always wanted to travel the world and tattoo, right? And
but where did that get? I pause for a second. Where did the wanting to travel the world? Where did that come from?
I really think like, you know, back to the Thrasher magazine stuff. Yeah. Looking at National Geographics. My mom always wanted to go on an African safari, but she died. Yeah. Never did shit. Yeah. Never did anything. She just, you know, we never could have afforded it anyway. But like my mom dying when I was 15, and I knew that she had all these things that she had wanted to do, but never did any of them, made me go, well, that's not going to be me, man. You know,
that's like, a great drive to get you out of bed in the fucking morning.
Fuck yeah.
Not so much I don't want to wind up like my parents. It's like, you know, the fear of failure. It's like pushes me so hard. And everybody distills like failure to you is not failure to me. Success is it's such a customized, bespoke thing.
Absolutely.
But it's like my failure of what I wake up in the morning is like, get out of this fucking bed, man. You gotta go. We gotta get this done. It's
gotta
like,
live.
You know, gotta live. Gotta do it, man.
You know, which was like also some like old hardcore songs, you know, tell you shit like that. Wake up and live. But yeah, there was all that, you know, and it was like, okay, well, fuck, I want to see all this stuff. And then it gets to the point where you're like, okay, yeah, like I actually can afford to go do some of this stuff now. And then once that world opened up to me, that's why I went to American Graffiti in the first place. I was in this shop in Ohio that I loved with people that I loved, but I got this opportunity to go there, and I knew that they did conventions in different countries. And I knew that I didn't know how to make that happen for myself. So I knew that going to these places would help me get in to those doors.
Right.
And I would learn a lot because the guys that worked there were like top dogs, you know?
Okay. So let me ask you, like, you know, I in a young age, I sought out wanting to work for Danielle because I wanted to learn French cuisine, wanting to going to Spain because I wanted to figure out what these Spanish chefs were doing. Like,
right.
And I go there and I cook the dishes that they tell me to cook.
Right.
But like a tattoo shop is like, how does that work when you go to work for someone at a tattoo shop? Is there like, hey, here's the flash book, this is what you're going to be doing? It's definitely not like that.
It's definitely like...
It's not, here's the menu, man, make this asparagus dish. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the shop can kind of get to be known, depending on the shop, for a certain style or something like that. So like, in particular, and I don't want to take away from like my experience in Ohio, because my friends there, I learned a lot from, blah, blah, blah. But it really became super evident in... at American Graffiti because it was known for like traditional style tattooing. So while you would still do like day-to-day normal walk-in type tattooing, they had a thing there. There was no appointments. You couldn't have appointments. So if somebody wanted a back piece from you, they had to walk in and wait for it till it was your turn to do it.
Oh,
and you had to draw it
man.
On the spot.
Wow.
And the deal was we were open from noon till 10. And if somebody came in at 9:59 and wanted a half sleeve, you had to stay and do it. The
station's broken down. You guys are cleaning up.
Yeah.
Hey, we got one more.
Well,
Fire up the grill.
But that's the thing, though, is I believe in my heart that if your hours are posted on your door, that's when you're fucking open. It has
to be, man. It has to be.
Like, you know, when you go into places like, for example, restaurants, and they're like, you know, they're open till 10, and you go in at 9:30 and they're like, oh, kitchen's already closed. Like, why do you say you're open till 10?
Yeah.
Like, I know it's kind of a dick move to go into the end of the night, and I do my goddamn.
Then change your hours then, man.
Well, that's it, man.
Yeah.
But like, people have this idea that like whatever the final hour is like you should be walking out the door.
No,
but
man,
no, that's the final hour that somebody can come in and get something done. So that's what it was at this shop, and that's the way it was. We'd be there till 2 or 3 in the morning all the time. We'd work these long hours, but like, I learned so much and I had fun because I love what I do.
Right.
Like,
it's not work.
And my thing is like, if you love what you do, if you don't love what you do, why are you doing it? Right. Okay. Number one. Number two, which, maybe is why all these people are quitting stuff. I don't fucking know, but do they love anything?
Right.
But anyway, that's a side note. But, my thing is like, I love what I do. I'm doing my thing. I'm fucking there late. Yeah, I'm tired sometimes. Yeah, I don't want to always be there. But in the end, I'm like counting my blessings and I'm walking out with a pocket full of cash. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and I remember fucking working for $4 an hour renting rooms to hookers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, this is cool.
Right. I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah. And I still, to this day, get this anxiety that it's going to go back to that. Uh-huh. And I still, to this day, feel like it's right around the corner and I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. So I do my best to work hard. But yeah, so that's, anyway, when we were there, it was like what you really gain from working there is when it's time to draw something, the other guys have got this experience drawing things. So there would be times where like you'd be drawing a panther and it just wasn't coming together and you'd go, hey, can you draw this for me? And you'd watch them and you'd see what they did. And then you'd go, oh. And then when you tattooed it, you outlined it and you got the feel for what happened just there. Mm-hmm. And you go, oh, that's the building.
That's super interesting. Yeah.
And then you do that, then you do your own. And then eventually just by sheer nature of being around greatness, you absorb that and become better. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like subconsciously.
Iron sharpens iron.
It's the same thing like with skateboarding back in the day. You go skate, and sometimes you go skate with your homies that were like pretty bad at skating, and you didn't really do anything all that good, no matter how hard you tried. And then all of a sudden you'd go and you'd skate with like 4 dudes that were so sick, and you were doing shit you didn't even know you could do. It's just a weird thing, right? And surrounding yourself with like greatness is like a real important thing.
Always.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
But also, you got to have your eyes open to understand just how great things around you are too. You know what I mean?
Before you start saying you're not learning anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's all bullshit, man. Yeah. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Like there's active learning and passive learning. And I think that passive learning is that thing where you're like repeating things over and over again and you're
mundane
and you're just seeing things happen. And it's a real organic long-term thing that you learn so much more from than somebody being like, this is how you do this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I agree. It's just a thing.
Yeah. I was talking to a veterinarian one time, or this had to be 10 years ago, maybe more. And she was explaining to me Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, and what it did for her industry.
Yeah.
Saying like it brought so much awareness to like animals and how humans interact with animals and like animals are being extinct. And it really raised up her industry of awareness of the general public.
Yeah.
She also said it hurt the industry so much because you got this moron on fucking TV yapping about this, yapping about that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it translated to what I think like Top Chef and the game shows of like, it brought so much awareness to the everyday person. Like, I think we told a story before. My mom called me one time and she goes, hey, Ryan. And I was like, yeah, who's Joe Robuchon? And I'm like, whoa, what are you watching? Whoa. What are you watching? Like, well, he's on Top Chef. And it brought all this awareness to like the everyday person of who these chefs are and where they came from, the family tree and what this guy's doing.
Yeah.
But then it also turned the industry into this fucking circus of competition.
Yes.
And, what has these tattoo shows done to your industry when you have Dave Navarro, rating people as the host,
Well, okay, so all right, the original shows, like all the blah 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 Inc. shows.
Yes, yeah, right.
I have homies that were on there, so I don't want to insult anything. The main thing with those shows that I think was difficult, there was like on one hand, it made people want cooler tattoos. It made people want tattoos that never thought about getting tattoos, and it made people want cooler, bigger, better tattooing. It also made them think you could get something that should take 12 hours in an hour.
5 minutes, right? Yeah.
Right. But it also showed a little too much, and I don't think this is the fault of the people on the show. I think it's the production companies. It showed too much of what you can get from tattooing if you're at a certain level, but it doesn't really differentiate that not everybody's at that level.
Right.
Okay. So that caused its own set of issues. Then you had shows like Ink Master, which I actually really like.
Yeah. Which one's Ink Master?
Ink Master was the one with Navarro.
Yeah, right. I enjoy that one too.
And like
cream rises to the top, man.
Totally. The only problem with Ink Master is like most of the tattooers on it are not good at tattooing. Like a huge majority of them are really not that good at it.
Now, that's because you think that they needed to fill slots for the show of, we need this type of person and this personality and that personality.
The majority of good people don't need to go on a show like that or care.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, I think a lot of those people are probably good when they have like 30 hours to do something, which I don't understand because I tattoo really like abnormally fast. So like, I don't really get it, but that's just the way they are, you know? So I don't think it really can show it. But what I did like about Ink Master is it shows that tattooing is difficult. It's not easy. It actually seems very hard, and it doesn't make anybody, I don't think it's going to make like Joe Schmo want to become a tattooer. Okay. But it also introduces this weird competitive thing into it. Like, you know, like you hear them going, well, you've never competed before? Like, compete against what? Not a jock.
Compete what?
I don't give a fuck about that shit.
Right.
You know
I'm
what
not
I mean?
going
So,
to a
like,
tattoo artist because he's fast and I can get this done in a half an hour challenge.
Yeah,
That's the last thing I want, man.
At risk of sounding like a total piece of shit, the only competing that we ever did was on the end of a busy Saturday night. We'd have this stupid game sometimes where you'd be like, whoever has more money in their pocket keeps it all.
Great.
And that was the competition. And that's a fucking insane competition after a long, busy day. But hey, that's the only kind I really want to roll in. You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyway, but yeah, I've heard people like criticize like Dave Navarro. What does his opinion matter? But I mean, in reality, it's the control of the experiment. The reality of it is like, if only the people involved in making something, like if only chefs ate the food,
right? What
does it matter? If the person that doesn't really know a whole lot about it eats it and likes it, that's kind of a different kind of tell. Right?
Or if the industry was the only people that watched it, it's not helping the industry at all.
Circle jerk.
You know? It's a circle jerk.
You know what I mean? So it's like there's that, right? But I did enjoy it. I was like, you know, I know a lot of guys, a lot of my peers hate it, but I'm like, yo, if it's gonna exist, it's cool. But that being said, like my other friend, I remember somebody talking to him. He was like, do you watch tattoo TV shows? And like somebody was talking shit about it. He goes, yeah, of course I watch it. He's like, I love tattooing. So I watch all of it because it's tattooing, and tattooing is something I love. You know, and I don't know, do chefs like watch Top Chef or Master Chef? Like
I watch it.
Because I love watching those shows.
Yeah, of course you
I'm
do.
so excited when the seasons come out. I'm like, that's sick.
Right. So somebody asked me one time, and they're like, oh, you watch this? And I'm like, what do you do for a living? They're like, I'm an accountant. I'm like, do you go home and do accounting? And they're like, no. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't watch it because I don't like the setup that it's a I don't think food is a competition.
Sure.
You know, even though it's competitive and stuff, but it's just like, and that shit is so overly edited.
Yeah.
But The Bear was the most real fucking show. Like, they hit it out of the park with that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Did you saw it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The way he's drinking out of a deli.
Yeah.
The way he's got that 20-yard stare in the office with all the invoices just in front of him and he's just sitting there. The way that she spills everything in the walk-in.
Yeah.
You know, the way he's screaming at people. Like, I was like, we were watching it at night, you know, watch a couple episodes, and then I'd go to bed and I'd be like twitching at night, and like PTS. I'm like, we gotta stop watching. I'm gonna watch the show in the afternoon and get on with the rest of my life, you know.
Totally.
But they really had, the menu was really good too. I thought that they had a really good job with that. Yeah.
My favorite scene in The Bear was when the guy got stabbed and he's running through, and Maddie just goes with his hands over his face.
Yeah.
It was the best. But I'm partial. Maddie's my homie, so I'm like, but like, I loved the show, and the menu was sick. The menu was so sick, and I didn't know if I was going to like it. At first, I felt like, what, am I one of these assholes? Like, you know what I mean? And probably a little bit. You know, I try not to be, but like all my chef homies are like, Yo, it's so accurate.
It's beyond accurate.
Yeah.
Besides the killing part, which
Yeah.
actually, you know, it's could
Probably
be
in your
could
mind, your
come of it
imagination,
too.
you're
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you travel? Where have you been traveling? Where's some good meals that you have? Where have you been lately?
Man, lately, honestly, I've been kind of chilling around here more. I've been going to Catbird a lot and Peninsula a lot.
Yeah, Peninsula's great.
And June a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Catbird is my favorite restaurant in the world. Baxter's fucking amazing.
Man. Such a good dude.
He's amazing. Yeah. And then, you know, Peninsula and June are also like, right. I mean, Jake and fucking Colin, and those guys are killing it, man. And we're really lucky, you know. But like, I'm doing a trip. We're going to Japan for Noma in May, and we're gonna go to a bunch of places. We got Kikonoi and some other shit lined up. I'm hoping that my friend Esben has his restaurant in Shanghai open by then, because I want to fly over and eat there. Man, we were talking about going to Inn at Little Washington soon.
Oh fuck!
I want to go so bad. I want to go so bad.
Yeah, dude.
And I mean, DC's got some great places.
DC's amazing.
Last year I went to Fiola, which was fucking killer, and I don't know, man.
I had a really surprising delicious meal at Albi.
Oh, really? I haven't been.
Yeah, it's a super casual kind of a Israeli Middle East, and it was fucking
sick.
spot on, man. It was so good.
Yeah,
and somebody, I think Sparrow recommended, is you got to check this place out. And I just kind of walked over there and sat down. Nice. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, and the menu read well, and they started putting the food down. I was like, Jesus Christ, man! Like, you guys are going for it,
That's
huh?
awesome.
Very delicious place,
dude. It's crazy because when I lived in DC, it was like everything was just mediocre at best. And then now you know I'm not there, I'm like, damn, you guys are so lucky. There's so much good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hoping to get to some other places this year. Last year we did like a whole Basque country situation. We went to like Etxebarri and Martin Bressategli and several other places that were sick, and then we went to Madrid to Diverso. Yeah. Have you been to Diverso?
I haven't been. No.
It is insane.
Yeah, he does wild stuff.
It is fucking insane. It's my third or fourth time there, and it was just crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, doing all that. As far as just traveling goes, I got that thing. I'm gonna go around Asia a little bit. Although flights just went up insane.
They really?
Like
Why?
2 weeks ago, they were like not too crazy, and now they're like triple.
Yeah,
I don't know what exactly is going on over there, so I'm not really sure how I wanted to go to like Penang and like Singapore and stuff. I haven't been over there in a long time, so but yeah, I don't know, man. I got all kinds of shit on my list this year. I want to hit up India again, and I've only been to like the kind of four corners of Africa, so I like really want to fill in the blanks kind of with some middle of Africa stuff, because it just seems like it'd be sick. I was talking to Sean about Senegal and all that.
Senegal, it sounds
cool,
dope,
dude.
man. Just the pictures alone. Yeah, like, wow,
so
it looks
insane.
special. Yeah,
I think there's a lot going on over there, you know, and like that, you know, is kind of relatively obscure over here, and which is wild because a lot of the roots of things are from there.
Right.
So, you know, I want to go check it out. You know, I don't know. I just love eating and I love traveling. And
where's your favorite place? Do you have a favorite place?
For what?
For travel, food, anything.
Okay.
Maybe 3-part question. I don't know.
Yeah. I always tell people my favorite cities in the world are Montreal, Paris, and Tokyo.
Yeah, Tokyo. Yeah.
But that's like for more like, I don't know how to really word it, but I also really love Varanasi in India. Before the war, I loved Damascus in Syria. It was so sick. Beirut's a great city.
I said Beirut is have like a sprouting food scene right now. People are talking about.
Yeah, I'd like to go over. I'd like to go over again. I haven't been in 17 or 18 years, so it's been a long time. But I love that whole Middle East. There's so much cool shit happening. And then as far as like restaurants go, like Capper, like the places here are strangely like top shit, but like also Noma.
Class, man. Yeah.
Like
Noma.
I was saying it to the other day, like even when I only know one or two people that are there, every time I go there, it feels like I'm going to a friend's house. Yeah. And you know, I've ate there, I don't know, man, 10 times or more, maybe more, I don't know. And it's like I fucking just look forward to it. Like, you know, have a reservation, you know, obviously going to Kyoto, and then I'm going to back in September, and I'm just like dying for it to happen like now. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, that stuff, man. All those Basque restaurants. I want to do more like crazy shit in Italy too.
Yeah.
You know, like bad, dude. Like, I don't know.
Italy's so great, man.
Yeah, you know. What about you? Other than what's going on with you?
Jesus. Yeah, the restaurant's opening, so I've kind of, the pandemic kind of like sidelined me a lot, which I kind of just became a little bit more of a homebody, which I was like on the go for like fucking 10 years straight, like nonstop, man. Like, I remember we flew to Noma, Australia for like, I think I was on the ground for 3 days.
Yeah.
Went there, ate a couple of the restaurants, hung out with the guys, and flew back.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just like, dude, this is out of control.
I had a reservation for opening day. James got me one for opening day lunch for Noma, Australia. And then I have immigration issues there.
Oh, what'd you do?
Back in the day, I may or may not have went there and worked without a visa.
And they
and
found
then
out.
they denied me a visa.
Yeah.
And I got to jump through crazy hoops to get one.
Yeah.
Because I would never work there without a visa.
Sure.
Again,
right.
ever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm admitting that I ever did, but yeah.
If you did, you wouldn't do it again,
yeah,
right?
I would never, you know. So
Australia,
anyway,
if you're listening.
so I was so bummed that I wasn't able to go because I went to Mexico. I went to
all of them.
I mean, I met you in Tokyo.
That's where in Tokyo. Yeah.
Although I kind of wonder when you were saying the timeline of when you were at Noma, Copenhagen originally. Like I think I ate there during that time. So
I might have. I knew your name in Japan, and I knew who you were. And then you tattooed Rocio, the huge thing on our leg, and I was like, oh, this guy's fucking dope, man. And then we met. I don't know if it was before or after we met at dinner. We were all kind of like hanging out and stuff. So I knew who you were. Yeah.
Tokyo was so
it's
sick.
ridiculous, man. It was still to date the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I felt like those guys are my war veterans.
Hell yeah.
You know, we all were in it. It's like, we are gonna open the best restaurant in the world. We're all in it together. I remember like me and Bo. I had the clam dish on my station, the clam tart. Yeah. And we did the first trial run, and it took us like 9 hours to open up all the clams and everything. So it was like the day before opening, and Bo's looking at me, and it was, I don't know what time it was in the kitchen. We were dead. Everyone was barbecued. Yeah. And he goes, hey, Ryan, what time are you thinking about coming in tomorrow? And I was like, I was thinking about getting here at like maybe like 5. And he goes, I was here again at 4:30. I'll have a coffee ready. And I went upstairs to the room, and I sat down on the edge of the bed, and I took a shower, and I just got dressed again and went right back down. It was like, maybe I slept for like 10 minutes, and we're just like in it, just like pure adrenaline, just like getting us going.
But it feels fucking awesome,
it was,
right?
Looking back, it was like
what
amazing.
An accomplishment.
It was like, I knew this was special, and I knew it was like groundbreaking, and it's like, just enjoy this. Enjoy the moment, man. As much as this sucks, this is fucking awesome, man. Yeah.
Bro, and as a diner, it was fucking insane.
Yeah.
It was mind-blowing. When you get that thing in front of you, you're like, I don't even, like, I want to eat it, but I'm like, I feel bad eating it almost. Yeah. But it was so sick. Yeah. You know, on a side note, man, I had a really good, like, play on that dish at a place.
Which one?
So there used to be this place called Forage in Salt Lake City, which was an amazing restaurant that I'm heartbroken that it's not there anymore because it was fucking great. But they did a crayfish tart. Yeah. Just like, it was like right after, like maybe 2 months after I was in Tokyo. And it was like the crust was made from the crayfish guts and it was so sick, dope, dude. Man, and I was like, it was just this little place that had like a 10 or 12 course thing, and it was like $90. Yeah. And it was just like they were like so influenced by Noma, but they were doing it so good. But yeah, it was like, it was cool to see that all your hard work like influenced others in such a heavy way.
Yeah, I think I felt like the world stopped and everybody was just like paying attention to Tokyo. Absolutely. And like the amount of chefs that just flew out there that didn't even have reservations, just, I just want to be here. Yeah. You know, we'll come by in the kitchen. It was all high fives and hugs and just like hanging out. You know, it was like really special, man. It was really cool. Yeah. Man. So it's like, I want to get back to Kyoto and really like dive into Kyoto a little more. I feel like I didn't spend enough time there. Right. Buenos Aires is on the list. I need to tackle South America.
Hell yeah, dude.
You know, I was in Brazil for a wedding many, many years ago, and we went to Sao Paulo and then a suburb where they got married, and then we were in like Natal beach area for a while. But I felt like I've been all over Mexico. I haven't been to Oaxaca, which is top on the list, but like Buenos Aires, Argentina, Chile, Peru, like those are, I think that's the next thing. And I speak a little bit of Spanish, enough to get by. I think I need to spend some time in South America before I start going back to San Sebastian. Yeah, I love it, but it's like I've been there. How many times have I been there? I don't need to go. I want to see some different stuff.
Totally, man. Yeah. There's like such a different perspective down there. It's it's. I mean, I haven't been to fucking Buenos Aires and
everyone says it's Madrid
almost
on
20
steroids.
years.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been it's like.
Well, you've been there, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's so long ago.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like I was like 4 different people ago. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I remember staying in this hotel. The hotel was sick. It was owned by a Chilean company, okay? And then they had their big economic crisis. The Chilean company boarded it up. All the workers said, fuck that, unboarded it, took the hotel.
No way.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's these laws there that if something's owned by a non-Argentine entity, if they're not occupying it, it can be taken by Argentine people.
Yeah.
At least that was the law, or I was told that was what. So they took it over and they ran it as a co-op, this like 20-story hotel that had like a co-op shoe store and like a communist bookstore and all this crazy shit. So there's this convention there, and I get there, and me being like still Michigan kind of mentality, I'm like, I don't know what this area is like, man. So I found this hardware store and I bought a hammer. And I was just wandering around with this hammer just in case. It turned out it was like totally fine. And it was kind of stupid of me, but I was just like paranoid.
Hey man, what's that hammer for?
Yeah, I'm like, it's in my jacket, you know? And I'm just like, yo, I'll fucking deal with it, you know? But like I would probably just got to take it from me and beat up. But like nothing happened. But dude, it was so sick. Eating empanadas and like the dairy, like fucking, like waking up shitting myself. You know what I mean? But like, you're like, this is terrible but awesome at the same time, man. And the fucking food was cool, but now I mean the way things are now, the way my mind, I would love to do that too.
I think it's like every time I go to Asia, it's always like, okay, I need to spend an extra 3 days because right when I land, you're gonna get food poisoning.
Yeah, totally.
You know, that's it. So whatever you're doing, take an extra 3 days.
Totally.
You know,
it's almost like better to just do it right away.
Totally, 100%. Yeah.
Totally.
In Bali, it's the same way. Bali belly, and it's not really food poisoning. You're just kind of fucked up for like a day and a half. You take some charcoal pills, and you're back on your feet, and then you're like, it's like you just got like inoculated. Dude, you're like, you're fine now, man.
It was like that in fucking Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, whatever you want to call it. I went to this place called Cuchi. I hired a driver. We went out really early in the morning. My dad during the war was there. He got like blown up and like fucking shrapnel in his body and shit. So I went out there to check it out. Pretty heavy place, very heavy place. And on the way back, he's like, "Oh, we have to go to a dog restaurant." And I was like, "All right, fuck it." You know?
But we're here.
None of them were open. He's like, "Oh, they're just dinner places. They're just dinner places." And I remembered watching on Bourdain that like lunch lady, the soup lady.
Oh yeah, right,
And
exactly,
I was like,
yeah.
And I'm like, what about this?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I don't know. And we pulled over. We're like Googling it. And he's like, we can go. And I was like, sick. So we went. She was there.
What dish did you have? You remember? Or?
I can't remember exactly, but I can describe some of it. So we get there. The lady's there. We're the first people. She's just setting up. It's already 100 degrees outside. It's fucking hot.
Uh-huh.
And she's got this soup. She's pouring it in the bowl. There's some shrimp. There's some fish balls, whatever. And then over here, there's this like kind of black mound, right? I'm like, I wonder what that is. She walks over to it and she goes like this. And it's about fucking 3,000 flies and a pile of raw beef. And she takes the raw beef and drops it in the soup. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to eat this for sure.
Yeah.
And I sit down and I eat it. And it's probably like at that point, at least the best thing I've ever ate in my life. Like just insane how good it was. And also there was these spring rolls that he dipped in the peanut based sauce that was like, as soon as you put it in your mouth, you want to vomit. It was gross. But the minute you chewed it and it got together, it was beautiful.
It was like intense fermentation.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was so awesome. And
yeah.
I asked my driver, I was like, is this good to you? And he goes, it's a good one. It's not the best one, but it's a good one. And I was like, I want to go to the best one. He's like, oh, later we'll eat. Later we'll eat. I'm like, cool. And later came and my stomach was not shitting, not puking, but it was too fucked up to go eat.
Yeah. Just too many foreign bacteria. Yeah.
Yeah,
your
man.
system was like, I don't know what to do with this right now.
Sorry,
We need
Holmes.
a minute.
I'm not going to crap myself at the market, you know? So
Yeah.
I want to go back.
I think
just for,
I think out of every place I've been, Vietnam had the most influence on me as a person. And I left Vietnam and reemerged with like a new outlook. And I'm sure each place that I visited, you know, especially when I traveled the world for 2 years, like inadvertently, I think I kind of changed, and it was like a gradual thing. Each place built on the next.
Big time.
But it's like right when I left Vietnam on the plane, I'm like, I knew that this place, I knew I was different. I knew from like a month ago when I landed there to when I left, and I toured from the top all the way down to the bottom.
Amazing.
It was the hospitality of the people. Like I checked into this really boutique hotel in Hanoi, and they were waiting for me when I got there. They knew who I was, and the one guy spoke a little bit of English, and he kind of asked what I'm here. I'm like, I'm on a food tour, and I'm just going to travel all over Vietnam. And he just thought that was the most. He's like, really?
Yeah.
You've come to eat our food? Like, wow, you know. So every time I left the hotel when he was working, he would cross-reference my list. Sick. And I had friends from all over, you know, I was working in Noma, Japan at the time. So it was like all these people that I had met and this and that. So this one guy like wrote me a whole list of he's from there. And he's like, this is where you got to go. And I would hand him the list each day, and he'd be like, this place is great. No, don't go to this place. Go across the street to the mother and daughter. Yeah. This is better. And I would get to the place. There's no addresses or anywhere. And I don't even know I'm the right place. And I was like, oh shit, there they are right there. Yeah. And he's like, this place is better, or this, that. And I remember there was this banh mi sandwich that I wanted to try that I think Munchies had written about. And it was a banh mi with like French fries. It was like this fucked up banh mi. Yeah. And he was like, listen, this place closes in the afternoon. It's got really weird hours, and it's all the way across town. Yeah. So it can't, you know, it'd be a lot for you. It'd be too much for you just to go there to eat this and come back. Yeah. So he ordered it for me, sent the driver out and drove it back. And it was waiting for me when I got back. And he's like, hey, here's the I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, man.
That's the way, dude.
And then when I left, it was all hugs, and it was so amazing. I spent like a week in Hanoi. And I didn't want to leave because I felt like these people were taking care of me. And every time I left, they were making sure. And I came back, and the woman behind he was gone. And the woman asked me what I had did and this and that. Yeah. And she was like, holy shit, like these are the places that I eat. How do you know about these places, you know? And then I went to some of the war museums, and it was heavy.
Heavy, dude.
Heavy, dude. But what I took away from it was, and what we learned here and what's going on there is, they fucking moved on, man.
Yeah, man.
This is what it was. It's called the American War. Yep. First of all. Yep. And every time I read a placard, it wasn't the angry, dirty Americans. Yeah. They came, and this was a U-boat that was cut off. Yep. Supplies from the Viet Cong, and this American U-boat cut off supplies, and this is the history, and this is the boat, and these are the articles, and this is clipping, and that's it. Very matter of fact. Yeah. This is what this boat did. Yeah. It wasn't anything one-sided. It was very kind of neutral down the middle, at least the way that I interpreted it.
That's how I felt when I was there too.
Yeah. And then I was like, sometimes I'm like, dude, we killed grandma. Like, should I fucking be here right now? Like, this war wasn't that long ago, man, you know?
Bro, being at Cu Chi, like, you can, like, rent machine guns and shoot them. Yeah. But they're machine guns that were, like, from dudes that were... Yeah. And, like...
Hectic.
And, like, there's, like, old men that were definitely there. Yeah. Like, that were... You know what I mean?
Right.
It just felt weird, bro.
Right. The levels of separation of like my dad in the war and my uncle in the war, and now I'm at Vietnam. Yeah. And it's just like
But they were mad cool.
They're not even mad cool. Yeah. It's just like it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
As to us, it's kind of like we're grasping on to this for population control, or to direct a narrative that doesn't even fucking matter anymore.
Totally.
You know, so
I need to text my customer to tell her that I'm going to be just a touch late. No, dude, I look, it's kind of crazy because I was at, conversely, I was in North Korea.
No shit.
Yeah. So yeah, no. So anyway, I went to North Korea, and they have this big war museum, right? And it's insane. It's amazing.
I couldn't even imagine.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's probably the coolest museum I've ever seen in my life. But it's definitely has a very alternative narrative to what we've been taught as true. Okay. So this it's an alternative viewpoint, and you're watching these videos, and it's like heavy, like the American invader and the this and that, and it's a very different vibe than Vietnam was in that way, and it's like kind of wild because they're every day, it's almost like a Groundhog Day feel, where it's like every day might as well have been the day after the war started.
No kidding.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
right,
it's like part of the culture. It felt like
it's still fresh.
That being said, everything in Pyongyang, I think, from what I understand from things I've read since I was there, is like a lot of actors and a lot of, you're not really seeing anything real, right?
Yeah.
But it was really cool in a way. Like, cool is not the right word.
Interesting.
I take that back.
Yeah. It was fucking awesome.
well, okay. So like you're driving around and you see like old ladies planting flowers, and you see old men like painting curbs and things like that, families in parks and stuff like that. And then you go to other places that are not North Korea, okay? And everybody's drunk and taking selfies and shopping and not giving a fuck about anything. And it's such a fucking interesting contrast that you can't help but be like, I know this isn't real, but man, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then you have this whole other thing about like the clinging to this other. It's just fucking wild, dude. It's wild.
Were you shitting your pants when you were there, man?
No, it was sick.
Really?
Dude. I loved every second of it. Our guides were so cool.
Yeah.
Our guides were so
when I
cool.
saw that guy that stole the poster and I forget his name, then got like fucking life of hard, and then they sent him back and he was dead. Like that was like, I don't need to go to North Korea.
Well, man. Check it out.
I mean, I guess don't steal posters when you're there. Like you know,
they tell you before you go.
Fuck around.
They say, hey, if you do anything like that, like even remotely questionable, okay? Like things that you would think are no big deal at home, and they list what these kinds of things are. They say that odds are you won't even be punished, but your guide might go to 10 years in prison for this.
Jesus Christ.
Okay? So when you make choices to do that kind of stuff, I wasn't there, and I'm not going to point fingers at a dead kid by any means.
Yeah, of course, right.
But I'm just going to say, like, I knew not to do that because they told me not to do that and why not to do that.
I know not to do that, and I haven't even gone there.
Right.
You know? Right.
So, like, for me, I didn't feel unsafe at all. Because, I was not going to do anything I wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, my guides were like really nice people. Like, whether it was real or not, I don't know, and I don't fucking care because they were nice to me. And it's like 1 minute we're bowling, and the next minute we're shooting guns in the basement of the bowling alley.
Yeah.
And then the next minute we're like looking at the place where they make all the art. And when we go back to the hotel, we're just fucking tired. So me and my girlfriend would just go to sleep and get up and have breakfast and go do it again. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, it was wild. And, I have some friends that get really mad at me when I talk about how it wasn't so bad. But my thought was maybe by going there, some people that are somewhat sheltered might see something totally different and question it and want more. Right. Maybe. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. So like I feel like it's your responsibility to go places.
I agree.
And it's like, some people like on Instagram are like, unfollow. You would post a selfie in front of a picture of Hitler or something, and I was like, I mean, look, if there was a statue of Hitler in this world somewhere, I would take a picture of it because it's insane.
Totally.
It's totally crazy that it exists.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't mean you're endorsing something. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like this whole idea that just because you're like there seeing it, you're somehow endorsing the big picture.
Right, yeah.
Like I don't roll like that.
I agree.
I feel like if you totally like ostracize something, you don't go there. I don't know if that's the right word, but like if you just don't go there, you whatever, then how is it ever going to fucking change? How is there ever going to be another perspective? And also, how are you going to have a broader perspective?
You're closing yourself off to education of what could possibly be. And when I went to Vietnam, it opened my eyes to be like, holy shit, they're doing okay, and we're hanging on to this, and it just gave me a different perspective on life.
Completely, man. And that's what I got going there. And this thing, like India. Like, I challenge anyone to go to India and not come back like a somewhat different human being.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Like, it's not possible.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
But, like, people, they point fingers at motherfuckers because they don't go anywhere. They go to Cancun.
Yeah,
You
that's
know what
a
I mean?
vacation.
Or they go
yeah.
someplace and party their life away.
Vegas is a vacation.
Like
yeah,
sick,
right.
good for you.
Yeah,
Like
right
that's
on.
cool. Do
Yeah.
your thing. But
Right.
fuck off if you want to like have something to say about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Somebody once told me, you know, you've been to places that 90% of the population will never see, nor do they even know exist. And I feel like you're kind of cut from that same cloth.
Yeah.
So it was amazing sitting down and listening to your stories and talking
Thanks.
with you. And, you know, I feel like we became better friends through this, and we have a lot
same.
more in common. And I really appreciate your time, and thanks for doing this, man. Yeah.
Bro, it's a huge honor. Thank
Yeah.
you for inviting me, and yeah, I had a blast.
Yeah,
today.
thanks for
Thank
being
you
a part.
much.
Yeah,
I
excellent.
feel like we could talk for 10
Yeah,
more hours.
totally. Yeah, right. I know you gotta go. Yeah, right on. Thanks,
Awesome,
brother.
man. Thank you.